The colony on the edge of the Orion Arm was a small one. It did not have tall cities or strong fleets. It was a quiet place where families lived under wide skies and farmers grew crops on green fields. Traders came once in a while, carrying goods and news from the larger empires. Life was peaceful, and most of the people believed it would stay that way forever. But the peace did not last. The first sign of danger came with the alarms. Long-range scanners picked up unknown ships entering the system. At first, the leaders thought it might be traders again. But soon, the readings grew clear. Dozens of raider ships had appeared, moving fast and closing in. These were not traders. They were pirates who traveled the stars in search of weak worlds to plunder. Panic spread quickly through the colony. The raiders were known for their cruelty. They took what they wanted and left behind fire and ruin. The colony had no fleet to protect them. A few defense towers stood on the surface, but they were old and weak. The leaders knew the truth. They could not stop what was coming. In the council chamber, the leaders gathered around a long table. The room was filled with worry. Old Governor Lurin sat at the head. His face was pale, and his hands shook as he spoke. We have little time. The raiders will be here in hours. If we do nothing, our people will fall. One of the younger council members asked, "Can we send a call for help? Maybe the nearby empires will come." The governor looked around the table. Every council member knew the answer. Nearby powers did not care about small colonies. They had their own problems. To them, this world was nothing more than dust at the edge of the map. Still, another member said, "We must try. Even if it is hopeless, we must send a signal." The governor nodded slowly. "Prepare the beacon." In the control center, technicians worked quickly. The emergency beacon had not been used in decades. It was an old system, a relic from long ago, built when the colony was first founded. Dust covered the panels, but the signal core still worked. "Where should we send it?" asked a young operator. "Everywhere," the governor said. "Send it in every direction. To every power we know. And, send it beyond. Into the dark." The operator hesitated. Beyond meant into the unknown. Beyond meant into the space marked on every star map with a warning human territory. No one dared to cross into that region. It was said to be a death world, a place too harsh for other species. Yet some whispered that a people lived there, humans, survivors of a violent world, a people both feared and avoided. The council members exchanged uneasy looks. One finally spoke. "Governor, if the humans exist, would they even answer? They do not trade. They do not speak. Other empires call them dangerous." The governor's voice was steady. "We have no choice. If they are dangerous, the raiders are worse. Send the signal." The beacon was activated. Across the stars, a pulse of light and sound carried the desperate message. It told of a colony in danger, of raiders coming, of families who would not survive without help. It was not a demand. It was a plea. Hours passed. The raiders grew closer. Their ships lit up the scanners, dozens of sharp points of energy racing toward the world. The people of the colony could see them now in the night sky, faint moving stars that spelled doom. Parents held children close. Farmers abandoned their fields and gathered in the shelters. Soldiers, too few in number, checked their weapons though they knew they could not stand against an armada. In the command center, the governor and his council waited. Each time the scanner beeped, hope rose, then fell again. No reply came. The nearby empires remained silent. No fleets came to aid them. The young operator whispered, "No one will help us." The governor closed his eyes. "Perhaps. But we will wait until the end. Sometimes hope is all we have." Outside, the raider fleet broke formation and began its descent toward the planet. Fire trails lit the skies as smaller attack craft entered the atmosphere. The sound of alarms echoed through every settlement. The people of the colony knew the storm had arrived. Yet, far away, beyond their sight, the SOS beacon kept traveling. It moved through empty space, through forgotten sectors, and into the borders marked human space. And there, in the silence of that feared region, something stirred. The hours after the SOS felt endless. The people of the colony lived in fear, waiting for a reply that never came. Inside the command center, the beacon continued to send its message into the void, repeating the same plea for help again and again. But the scanners showed nothing. No fleets, no allies, no signal in return. Only silence. Governor Luren stood at the wide glass window of the chamber. His tired eyes looked toward the stars, though he could not see the beacon's light as it traveled away. He whispered softly, "Does no one hear us?" His voice carried a mix of sorrow and exhaustion. The younger council member, Myra, stepped closer. She was one of the few who still held onto some hope. "Maybe the message takes time," she said. "Stars are far. Perhaps someone is on the way even now." The old governor shook his head slowly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps we are alone." All across the colony, the silence weighed heavily on the people. Families gathered in their homes, listening for news. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Would help come? Would someone stop the raiders? Or would their world burn? On the outer ridges of the colony, farmers who once worked the fields now stood guard with hunting rifles. They were not soldiers, but they wanted to protect their land. Yet in their hearts, they knew such small weapons would mean nothing against ships that could burn cities from the sky. The raider fleet did not rush. They drifted at the edge of the system like wolves waiting for the right moment to strike. Their presence alone was enough to spread fear. Every time a raider ship moved, the people felt the ground shake with worry. Inside the command center, Myra watched the screens carefully. She saw the raider signals moving in steady patterns. She turned to the governor. "Why do they wait? They could have struck already." Luren frowned. "Raiders enjoy fear. They let it grow before they attack. They want us broken before the first shot is fired." The council fell silent at those words. Fear indeed was spreading. Even the strongest citizens had begun to lose hope. By the third day, whispers started among the people. Some said the beacon had been wasted. Others said it had been a mistake to send it beyond, toward the forbidden sector of human space. "The humans are not coming," one elder muttered to his family. "They never leave their world. They are shadows in the dark." Still, a few refused to let go of faith. In the shelters, a teacher told her students, "We must believe the signal was heard. Someone will answer. We must not give in to despair." Her words kept the children calm, though she herself felt the weight of doubt. That night, storms rolled over the colony. Lightning flashed across the skies, and the rain fell hard. It was as if nature itself mourned for what was to come. People gathered around fires, listening to the thunder while the beacon kept pulsing into the endless dark. In the command chamber, Myra stayed awake at her station. She kept scanning, staring at the monitors for any sign of movement beyond the raider fleet. The silence pressed on her mind like a heavy stone. She wanted to believe someone would come. Yet the void gave no answer. The governor sat beside her, his voice quiet. "Do you know the hardest thing about leadership, Myra?" She looked at him. "What is it?" He sighed. "It is not fighting battles. It is waiting, knowing your people look to you for hope when you have none to give." Myra lowered her head. She felt the truth of his words. The silence was not just outside in the stars. It had settled inside every heart. Meanwhile, the raiders prepared. Their ships adjusted positions, forming attack lines. Scouts entered closer orbit, mapping weak spots on the surface. The colony could see them now clearly, black shapes against the sky, lights glowing like watching eyes. Children pointed to them with fear. Parents pulled them inside. On the fourth day, the first attack came. A single raider craft dove down and fired on an empty supply depot near the edge of the colony. The explosion shook the ground, lighting up the night. It was a warning, a cruel reminder that the raiders could destroy them whenever they chose. The people cried out in panic. The council met again, their voices filled with dread. "They play with us," one said. "They could finish us in hours, but they enjoy watching us suffer." Governor Lurin raised his hand. "We must endure. If we fall into despair, we are already defeated. Hold faith, even in silence." But even his voice trembled as he spoke. He was strong for his people, yet inside, he too felt the crushing weight of waiting. The beacon still shone, its signal racing into the galaxy. But no one on the colony could know where it traveled. They could not know that deep in the dark, beyond the feared borders, machines were already listening. For now, all they knew was silence. Silence across the stars. The fifth day began with silence once again. The beacon continued to pulse across the stars, but no signal had returned. The people of the colony were tired, afraid, and hopeless. They had seen the raiders above their skies, circling like vultures, waiting to strike. Families huddled together in shelters, wondering if today would be their last. In the command chamber, Myra sat at her station with weary eyes. She stared at the scanners, watching the same signals appear again and again. The raider fleet moved slowly, patient and cruel. Her hands trembled as she tapped the screen. "Governor," she said softly, "they are coming closer." Governor Lurin walked over and placed a hand on the edge of her console. His face was pale, but his voice tried to remain calm. "How many?" "Too many," Myra whispered. "They move as if preparing for the final strike." The governor turned toward the council. "Prepare the shelters. If this is the end, we must protect as many as we can." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what he meant. They had no defense strong enough to stand against the raiders. All they could do was wait for destruction. But then, something changed. One of the younger technicians gasped as the screen lit up with new signals. At first, no one understood what they were seeing. The scanners flickered with dozens of strange readings on the edge of the system. They were large, moving fast, and growing in number. "Another fleet?" Myra asked, fear tightening her voice. "Are these more raiders?" The technician shook his head quickly. "No, they are too many, far too many for raiders. And their formation, it is not chaos. It is order." The governor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Show me." The screen shifted, and the room filled with stunned silence. Hundreds of massive energy signatures appeared at once, surrounding the system like a wall. They were not thin, fragile ships like raiders. These were giants. Carriers, battleships, cruisers, an entire war fleet. Their arrival was so sudden, it felt like the sky itself had awakened. For a moment, no one in the chamber could breathe. Myra finally found her voice. "Who are they?" The answer came seconds later. A signal burst across every channel, clear and strong. It was spoken in every major language, so no one could mistake its meaning. "SOS received. This is the human fleet. Stand by." The words echoed through the chamber. The governor gripped the table for support, his eyes wide. The council members looked at one another in disbelief. Myra whispered, almost to herself, "Humans. They came." The colony had always heard stories of the humans. Tales of a people born on a death world, strong and fierce, who lived in isolation and spoke to no one. Some said they were dangerous. Some said they were only myth. Yet here they were, filling the skies with ships so vast and so many that the raider fleet now looked like insects before a storm. On the surface of the colony, people rushed out of their shelters, staring upward in awe. The night sky glowed with countless lights as the human fleet emerged from hyperspace. Massive shadows passed across the stars, their hulls lined with endless ranks of weapons. Children pointed and shouted in excitement. Elders wept openly, falling to their knees in relief. The silence that had crushed them for days was gone. In its place was the thunder of hope. Meanwhile, in orbit, the raider fleet panicked. Their scanners screamed with warnings as ship after ship appeared before them. Raiders who had once laughed at the weakness of the colony now trembled at the sight of the humans. The raider commander barked orders in a harsh voice. "Hold formation. Do not break. They cannot mean to fight us all at once." But his words did not stop the fear spreading through his crew. The humans wasted no time. Their fleet moved with discipline, every ship shifting into precise formation. Carriers opened their bays, releasing wings of fighters that spread like silver arrows. Cruisers powered their cannons. Battleships aligned, creating a wall of steel and fire. Back on the colony, Myra stared at the screens with wide eyes. "They are not just here to scare the raiders," she said. "They are ready for war." Governor Luren placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice shook with awe. "They heard us. And they answered." For the first time in days, hope filled the chamber. Every person felt the same truth settle in their hearts: the humans had not come to watch, nor to threaten. They had come to protect. In orbit, the humans sent one more message, calm and steady. "This system is under our protection. All hostile forces will leave or be destroyed." The words rolled across the void, striking fear into the raiders. Some ships immediately broke formation, their captains fleeing without a fight. Others hesitated, caught between greed and terror. The people of the colony held their breath. The humans had arrived like a rising storm. What came next would decide everything. The horizon had awakened, and with it, the fate of the galaxy began to shift. The raider fleet had always believed itself untouchable. For years, they had hunted weak colonies, striking without fear of punishment. Their ships were fast, their weapons sharp, and no one dared to challenge them. But now, as the human war fleet spread across the system like an iron wall, that confidence began to crack. On the raider flagship, Commander Kuln gripped the arm of his chair. His red eyes flicked across the screens as human ships filled every corner of space. His crew worked in panic, voices shouting over one another. "There are hundreds of them," one officer cried. "Thousands," another corrected. "More signals keep arriving. We cannot count them all." Kuln slammed his fist on the armrest. "Silence. Hold formation. They will not fire. They are bluffing." But even as he spoke, his voice carried doubt. The humans did not move like bluffers. Their fleet was calm, precise, and ready. The first wave of human fighters swept past, gliding in perfect lines. They did not attack yet, but their engines burned bright, a warning of the storm to come. In the smaller raider vessels, fear spread quickly. Raiders were used to fighting unarmed traders or helpless colonies. They were not soldiers. They were scavengers. Many of them had never seen a fleet so large, so organized, so unshakable. One captain shouted across his comms, "This is madness. We cannot stand against them. We must retreat." Another answered, "If we run, Kuln will hunt us down himself." But their voices shook. For the first time, they were not afraid of their commander. They were afraid of the humans. Back on the colony, Myra and Governor Luren watched the scene unfold on their screens. The raiders shifted nervously, their formation breaking apart. Some ships drifted backward, others scattered slightly as captains lost their nerve. Myra's voice was soft, filled with wonder. "They are afraid." Luren nodded slowly. And well they should be. Then it happened. A single raider ship, unable to take the pressure, turned and jumped to hyperspace, fleeing into the dark. The others saw it and wavered. The fear spread like fire. If one could run, why not all? Commander Kuln shouted furiously. Hold your ground. Any ship that flees will be destroyed by my guns. But his threat came too late. Another ship broke away. Then another. And another. The mighty raider fleet that once terrified the colony now looked like a scattered flock of frightened birds. The humans did not rush. They let the fear do its work. Their fleet advanced slowly, each massive battleship moving like a mountain across the stars. The colony's people watched in awe as the humans showed their strength without a single wasted shot. In the command chamber, Myra whispered, "They fight with silence." Governor Luren's eyes were fixed on the screen. No. They fight with presence. Their very existence is enough to shake the raiders. Meanwhile, on the flagship, Kuln's crew grew restless. Officers muttered to one another, eyes darting toward the humans on the scanners. "They are coming closer," one said. "Their formation tightens. They mean to strike." Kuln bared his teeth. "Then let them strike. We will show them the raiders do not run." But his words rang hollow. Even he felt the tremor of fear rising in his chest. Then the humans spoke again. A deep voice, steady and calm, filled every comm channel. "Final warning. Leave this system now." The words echoed through every raider ship. For many, it was not a warning, it was a promise. More raider captains chose to flee. Their ships vanished into hyperspace one after another. The once proud Armada was crumbling before the eyes of the galaxy. But not all left. Kuln still had loyal captains, those too proud or too desperate to abandon him. They tightened their lines and prepared for battle. Yet even among them, fear lingered. Their hands shook on their controls. Their eyes stayed locked on the massive shadows of the human battleships that loomed closer and closer. Back on the colony, the people cheered as they saw raider ships fleeing. For the first time, they felt safety was possible. Hope spread faster than fear now. Children laughed, and elders lifted their hands to the sky in thanks. Myra turned to the governor, her eyes shining. "It is happening. The raiders are breaking." Luren allowed himself a small smile. "Yes. Humanity has arrived, and the raiders know it." But he also knew it was not over. Some raiders still remained, and fear could turn to desperation. Desperate enemies often fought the hardest. In orbit, the human fleet continued to advance. No chaos, no shouting, no panic. Their movements were like a single mind, each ship holding its place, each fighter flying in perfect rhythm. It was a display of unity and discipline the raiders could never match. Commander Kuln tightened his grip on his chair. "If they want war," he growled, "then we will give them war." But his words did not sound strong anymore. They sounded like the cry of a man who already knew he had lost. The humans had not yet fired a single shot. And still, the raiders were in terror. The raiders had no time to recover. The human fleet moved with precision, their massive ships forming a perfect line between the colony and the fleeing enemy. From the surface, the people watched in awe as the sky filled with strange lights and shadows. Every human vessel seemed alive, moving as one mind, ready to defend and attack. On the colony, Myra and Governor Luren stood at the observation deck, watching the unfolding battle. The raiders scrambled to form a fighting line, but their fear made them clumsy and slow. Even their fastest ships could not escape the coordinated human attack. "They are not just fighting," Myra said softly, her eyes wide. "They are controlling everything. The raiders cannot move without being trapped." Luren nodded. "This is unlike anything we have ever seen. Humanity is more than ships. It is a force." From orbit, the human fighters launched in waves, moving like silver arrows across the void. The smaller raider craft tried to dodge, but the humans were faster and smarter. Fighters struck with deadly precision, disabling engines and cutting communications. Raider ships spun out of control, colliding with one another in their panic. The larger raider warships tried to respond. Their cannons fired toward the humans, beams of light cutting through the darkness. But human shields absorbed the hits, and their counterfire was unstoppable. One by one, the raider vessels fell apart, explosions lighting the sky in bright flashes. On the ground, the people of the colony could feel the battle. Every blast sent vibrations through the planet. Children clung to their parents, but they also watched with amazement. This was no ordinary fight. The humans were not reckless. Every strike was calculated, every move protecting the colony below. Governor Luren turned to Myra. Notice how they do not harm our world. Not a single shot falls near the cities. Yes, Myra said, her voice trembling. They are precise, like they planned everything before even arriving. Above them, the raider flagship struggled. Commander Kuln barked orders, but chaos ruled his crew. Every ship that broke formation was destroyed by human fighters. The larger warships tried to flee, but the humans anticipated their path, cutting them off at every turn. Focus on their command ship, one human officer's voice echoed across comms. Disable it. Then the rest will collapse. A team of fighters shot toward the raider flagship. The colony watched as the enemy vessel attempted to fire back, but it was too late. Missiles struck its engines, and cannons were destroyed. Sparks and fire spread across its hull. The raider flagship listed, drifting helplessly as human ships surrounded it. Commander Kuln realized defeat was near. We fight to the last, he growled, but even his voice lacked power. Fear and hopelessness had taken root in his crew. The battle below in orbit was intense, but controlled. Human capital ships formed shields to protect the colony from stray blasts. Every fighter wave moved in perfect timing, disabling raider craft before they could aim at the surface. Their coordination was flawless, terrifying, and beautiful to watch. From the surface, families cheered with relief as raider ships were destroyed. Flames of victory lit the darkness of space. Children ran outside to see the glowing trails of fighter wings. Soldiers of the colony no longer needed to guard the walls. The humans had taken over the fight. Even the smallest raider ships tried to escape, but the human fleet was everywhere. The humans anticipated every movement, cutting off routes and leaving no chance to flee. It was as if the entire fleet were one living creature, defending the helpless with unshakable discipline. Myra whispered to the governor, "They are not just strong. They are unstoppable." "Yes," Luren said, his voice filled with pride and awe. "And they are here for us." The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was clear. The raiders, once bold and terrifying, were now broken. Their ships burned or fled in scattered panic. Their fleet, which had once threatened to destroy the colony, now faced total defeat. At last, Commander Kuln ordered the remaining ships to retreat. Some tried to jump to hyperspace, but many were intercepted. The sky cleared of enemy vessels, leaving only the human fleet in orbit. The colony erupted in cheers. People danced in the streets, laughed, and cried. They had survived because of humanity. They had watched something incredible, a force so disciplined and strong that fear alone defeated one of the deadliest fleets in the galaxy. Governor Luren raised his hands to the sky. "We are safe," he shouted. "Humanity has saved us." Myra smiled, tears running down her face. "And they didn't even fire at us once. They fought only the raiders." The human fleet held its position above the colony. Their presence alone was a shield, a promise that no harm would come as long as they were there. For the first time in days, the colony felt hope as a living, breathing thing. Humanity had arrived, fought with unmatched strength, and protected the helpless. The Battle of Orion's Edge was over, but the legend of that day would remain in the hearts of the people forever. The horizon, once dark and terrifying, was now bright with the power and discipline of humans. The battle was over. The raider fleet had fled or been destroyed. The colony no longer trembled in fear. Yet the people did not immediately relax. They had seen the power of humanity, and the memory of the enemy lingered. Even as their skies cleared, the humans remained in orbit, silent guardians above the planet. Governor Luren walked through the streets, observing the survivors. Children played again, but many families were still shaken. Buildings had been damaged, and supplies were scattered across the fields. Myra and the council moved among the people, offering words of comfort, but even they knew the colony would take time to heal. Then, slowly, the humans descended. Their ships moved closer, sending smaller craft to the surface. From one carrier, a team of soldiers, engineers, and medics stepped down. Their uniforms were simple, but their presence was commanding. Each human moved with calm confidence, yet there was gentleness in the way they approached the survivors. A small group of children ran toward the humans, their eyes wide. One of the medics knelt and smiled. "We are here to help," he said in a voice that everyone could understand. "You are safe now." The governor approached the human commander. He was a tall man with a steady voice and quiet strength. "Why did you come for us?" Luren asked. "We are a small colony. We are not strong. We were not important." The commander shook his head. "When someone calls for help, we answer. No matter who they are. No one should face destruction alone. We are humans, and this is what we do." The people listened, amazed. For days, they had thought of humanity as a myth, a dangerous and distant race. Now, they saw them as protectors, as beings who could bring hope to the darkest place. Engineers began working immediately. They repaired damaged buildings, cleared debris, and helped rebuild homes. Medics treated the wounded and comforted those too afraid to leave their shelters. Soldiers trained some of the colony's defenders, showing them better ways to guard their world. Every action showed discipline and care. Myra followed a small group of children who had been hiding during the attack. One little boy tugged at her sleeve. "Will they stay?" he asked. His voice was filled with hope, but also fear that the humans might leave. "They will stay until we are safe," Myra said softly. She smiled, thinking about the words of the human commander. Humanity did not abandon those who needed help. At the colony's command center, Luren watched the humans work. He noticed how they organized everything without chaos, how their presence calmed everyone, and how the raider threat had already faded from people's minds. One of the human officers approached him. "Governor, your people are strong. You survived because of courage, not just because we came. But from this day, we will watch over you until the colony is fully safe. That is our promise." Luren felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The fear that had pressed down on the colony for days was gone. In its place was a sense of safety and respect for the humans who had come from so far to protect them. As the day turned to evening, the people gathered in the central square. They brought food, flowers, and gifts, but the humans did not ask for anything in return. They simply stood among the people, speaking softly, listening, and helping where needed. The governor raised his voice to speak to the crowd. "Today, we are alive because of humans. They came when no one else would. They fought when we could not fight. And they stayed when fear tried to take over. We owe them more than thanks. We owe them trust." The crowd cheered. Some cried. Children waved at the humans in excitement. Families held hands, feeling that the darkness of the past days had finally ended. Myra turned to Luren. "They have made an oath," she said quietly. "An oath to protect the helpless. And I think it is a promise that will never be broken." Luren nodded. "Yes. And now we must keep our own oath. to live, to grow, and to honor their protection by becoming strong and wise. That night, as the stars shone above, the humans remained in orbit, watching over the colony. Their lights twinkled like distant guardians, reminding everyone that they were not alone. For the first time in generations, the people of the colony felt true safety. In quiet corners, parents whispered stories of the humans' courage. Children imagined themselves among the stars, flying with the fleet that had saved them. Even the council began planning for the future, knowing that help was always near. The battle had ended, but the bond created that day would last forever. The humans had arrived, not just as fighters, but as protectors and teachers. The colony had witnessed strength, discipline, and compassion. From that moment, the people understood something new: humanity was a force that could change the galaxy, and they had become part of its story. A new oath was formed, not written on paper, but in hearts. Humanity had kept its promise, and the colony promised, in return, to remember, to honor, and to grow stronger. The stars above seemed brighter that night. They carried the message of hope, courage, and protection, spreading across the galaxy in the wake of humans who had answered the SOS. The battle was over. The raider fleet had fled or been destroyed. The colony no longer trembled in fear. Yet the people did not immediately relax. They had seen the power of humanity, and the memory of the enemy lingered. Even as their skies cleared, the humans remained in orbit, silent guardians above the planet. Governor Luren walked through the streets, observing the survivors. Children played again, but many families were still shaken. Buildings had been damaged, and supplies were scattered across the fields. Myra and the council moved among the people, offering words of comfort, but even they knew the colony would take time to heal. Then, slowly, the humans descended. Their ships moved closer, sending smaller craft to the surface. From one carrier, a team of soldiers, engineers, and medics stepped down. Their uniforms were simple, but their presence was commanding. Each human moved with calm confidence, yet there was gentleness in the way they approached the survivors. A small group of children ran toward the humans, their eyes wide. One of the medics knelt and smiled. "We are here to help," he said in a voice that everyone could understand. "You are safe now." The governor approached the human commander. He was a tall man with a steady voice and quiet strength. "Why did you come for us?" Luren asked. "We are a small colony. We are not strong. We were not important." The commander shook his head. "When someone calls for help, we answer. No matter who they are. No one should face destruction alone. We are humans, and this is what we do." The people listened, amazed. For days, they had thought of humanity as a myth, a dangerous and distant race. Now, they saw them as protectors, as beings who could bring hope to the darkest place. Engineers began working immediately. They repaired damaged buildings, cleared debris, and helped rebuild homes. Medics treated the wounded and comforted those too afraid to leave their shelters. Soldiers trained some of the colony's defenders, showing them better ways to guard their world. Every action showed discipline and care. Myra followed a small group of children who had been hiding during the attack. One little boy tugged at her sleeve. "Will they stay?" he asked. His voice was filled with hope, but also fear that the humans might leave. "They will stay until we are safe," Myra said softly. She smiled, thinking about the words of the human commander. Humanity did not abandon those who needed help. At the colony's command center, Luren watched the humans work. He noticed how they organized everything without chaos, how their presence calmed everyone, and how the raider threat had already faded from people's minds. One of the human officers approached him. "Governor, your people are strong. You survived because of courage, not just because we came. But from this day, we will watch over you until the colony is fully safe. That is our promise." Luren felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The fear that had pressed down on the colony for days was gone. In its place was a sense of safety and respect for the humans who had come from so far to protect them. As the day turned to evening, the people gathered in the central square. They brought food, flowers, and gifts, but the humans did not ask for anything in return. They simply stood among the people, speaking softly, listening, and helping where needed. The governor raised his voice to speak to the crowd. Today, we are alive because of humans. They came when no one else would. They fought when we could not fight. And they stayed when fear tried to take over. We owe them more than thanks. We owe them trust. The crowd cheered. Some cried. Children waved at the humans in excitement. Families held hands, feeling that the darkness of the past days had finally ended. Myra turned to Luren. They have made an oath, she said quietly. An oath to protect the helpless. And I think it is a promise that will never be broken. Luren nodded. Yes. And now we must keep our own oath. To live, to grow, and to honor their protection by becoming strong and wise. That night, as the stars shone above, the humans remained in orbit, watching over the colony. Their lights twinkled like distant guardians, reminding everyone that they were not alone. For the first time in generations, the people of the colony felt true safety. In quiet corners, parents whispered stories of the humans' courage. Children imagined themselves among the stars, flying with the fleet that had saved them. Even the council began planning for the future, knowing that help was always near. The battle had ended, but the bond created that day would last forever. The humans had arrived, not just as fighters, but as protectors and teachers. The colony had witnessed strength, discipline, and compassion. From that moment, the people understood something new: humanity was a force that could change the galaxy, and they had become part of its story. A new oath was formed, not written on paper, but in hearts. Humanity had kept its promise, and the colony promised, in return, to remember, to honor, and to grow stronger. The stars above seemed brighter that night. They carried the message of hope, courage, and protection, spreading across the galaxy in the wake of humans who had answered the SOS. Weeks had passed since the human fleet had defended the colony. The people were rebuilding their homes, planting new crops, and repairing damaged roads. Yet even as daily life returned, a new feeling filled their hearts. It was a sense of pride, of connection, and of awe. They had lived through fear and seen what humanity could do. Governor Luren walked through the main square, greeting families and watching children play. Myra followed, keeping notes on the repairs and progress. They had both learned something important: the humans had not only saved their lives, but had also taught them a lesson about courage, unity, and discipline. In orbit above the colony, the human fleet lingered. Ships glided silently, their presence a constant reassurance. Even when the work of rebuilding continued below, their watchful eyes reminded everyone that no threat would come unchallenged. Then came the first message from outside the colony. Word of the humans' intervention had spread quickly through the galactic network. Neighboring empires, which had once ignored small worlds like theirs, now sent envoys and messengers. Some approached with caution, others with respect. They wanted to know how a tiny colony had survived against a powerful raider fleet. Luren received one message personally. "We have heard of the humans," it read. "We wish to learn what power and discipline they possess. Tell us your story." He smiled faintly. "The story is simple," he replied. "When the SOS was sent, humanity answered. They fought not for glory or gain, but to protect the helpless. That is why we survived." Myra watched him send the message. "Do you think they will believe it?" she asked. "They will," Luren said. "The humans do not need praise. Their actions speak louder than words. Soon, the galaxy will see what we have seen." And indeed, it happened. Across the stars, whispers began to grow into stories, and stories into legends. Traders told other traders about the fleet that had arrived like a storm. Scholars wrote reports of the humans' precision, strength, and care for the weak. Even hostile empires took note, realizing that the humans were not just a distant threat, they were a force that could change the balance of power. In some regions, fear spread. Raiders and pirates, who had once thrived on terror, found themselves hesitating before attacking small worlds. They knew now that anywhere a signal for help could reach human space, they might meet a fleet far larger and stronger than their own. Yet not all who learned of the humans reacted with fear. Many species felt hope. Worlds that had suffered under constant raids, planets that had struggled to survive alone, now believed there was someone who would answer their call. Humanity became a symbol of protection, of courage, and of trust. Back on the colony, Governor Lurin and Myra watched the horizon each night, wondering when the humans would depart. But the fleet remained, a silent promise above the planet. They organized training programs for the colony's defenders, taught new strategies for survival, and helped build strong communication networks. The children, especially, were fascinated. They ran to the observation decks every day, hoping to see the human ships moving in formation. Teachers incorporated stories of the humans into lessons, emphasizing courage, unity, and care for others. One day, a human officer spoke to Lurin quietly. "Your colony is safe now. But the galaxy will need humans in many places. We will move on soon. Remember what you have learned. Share it. Grow stronger." Lurin nodded. "We will. We will tell everyone what humanity is capable of, and we will protect others when we can." The humans began to leave in small groups, jumping into hyperspace, but their presence remained in every mind. Their actions had shifted something larger than any one battle. Entire civilizations began to see humanity not as distant myths, but as protectors and allies. As the fleet vanished into the stars, the colony sent a final message. "Thank you. You have changed our world and our hearts. We will remember and honor your deeds forever." In the months that followed, reports came from all directions. Small colonies sent their own SOS signals, and for the first time, they believed someone would answer. Other empires that had ignored threats now took warnings seriously, knowing humans could arrive anywhere. Even enemies of humanity respected their discipline, strength, and courage. Governor Lurin stood once more in the main square, Myra by his side. The people gathered around them, older and wiser after the crisis. "We are no longer just survivors," he said. "We are witnesses. Witnesses to a power that protects, a force that does not fight for greed, but for life itself. Humanity has shown us what it means to answer the call." Myra smiled. "And now the galaxy knows. Humans are not just warriors. They are hope." The stars above twinkled brightly that night. Somewhere, far beyond the colony, the human fleet continued its journey. The message of courage, protection, and strength spread silently across the galaxy. And every species that heard it learned one clear truth: if you send an SOS, and the humans hear it, you are never alone. The galaxy had learned. Humanity had arrived. And a new age of respect, fear, and hope had begun.